Huh?
That was funny,
Yeah.
your,
Understand.
you stand.
Okay, so last week, Heather, we're testing you.
Okay, I just listened to you on the treadmill. so-
Oh, okay.
I was, and then I missed, we're back on at 10:30, but you know where I went to the OHEL.
Oh, how nice.
Yes. My friend
Wow.
called me, she said, Mimi, she lives in Westchester, I said, I need to get a class, but the class was canceled, she said, that's a sign, let's go. So I went, and I missed the whole back on, because I was driving and then I was praying.
How was all hell? Yeah?
10:30.
Something about it. Yeah, there is something about it.
That's.
Right. Whether Lubavitcher Rebbe is
It's that big rabbi.
Lubavitcher Rebbe, Rabbi Mason. Hi. Right. Hi, Ellen. Leo. Brooke.
It's a whole lot to learn, to pray.
So who's the other side?
That wasn't the 70s.
It's in the cemetery.
When, no, was it the somebody, 770?
Oh, wow, very nice.
When the radio was.
Dating a long time? Wow.
I got.
Very nice. Great, great, great.
It was a very overwhelming experience. 5,000.
Okay. Okay. All righty. So we said, okay.
What are you reading in? A different book?
We need.
So, actually not, but, notes would be good, but if you want to take notes, that would be good. Okay, so we said last week, we talked about the obligations of the holiday, right? So I want you to build the structure in your minds, the holiday of Purim, right? The obligations of Purim, right? As you just started to say, great. So I want you to build the structure in your mind. So it starts with the following and build the tools so you own them, right? So we start with point A is that the Torah gives us most of our commandments. The Torah establishes most of our obligations, right? They're not most, but the core of our obligations come from the Torah, right? 5 books, right? Okay, good. Then what happens? The rabbis come in and they add to it. We'll talk about that in a minute. But what they do is they weigh in on what was given to us in the Torah, and they say that a mitzvah that is specifically time-bound, women are exempt. So again, Torah-based mitzvot, we start with the Torah-based mitzvah. An example would be sitting in the sukkah, right? Sitting in the sukkah is a Torah-based mitzvah. The Torah says that everybody should sit in the sukkah 7 days, that everybody should take a lulav at least 1 day. And the rabbis come in after and say, true, but ladies have very important things to do, and they can't be obligated to these specific Torah-based mitzvot. Okay, and by doing that, women become exempted from a number of Torah-based mitzvot. We'll keep it narrow because I want to go focus really on Purim, but two of the classic ones are sitting in the sukkah, right? A woman is not obligated to sit in the sukkah, a man is. A woman is not obligated to take a lulav and etrog and so on. A man is, right? And what is the disqualifier for the ladies? The disqualifier is that it's time specific. And because a woman has obligations to her family, then those time specific things go away. And because you need a pen?
Yeah,
Let's see, maybe this
I
one.
think I have.
Oh, you have? And there's another element here as well, and that is, and we've said this before, women need less refinement than men. The purpose of a mitzvah is to refine and to better and to improve, and women need less than men. So, headline number 1, the core mitzvot come from the Chumash itself. Qualifier number one, the rabbis take the liberty and the authority to say, it's true, God commanded it, but really the person who it's more practical for and the person who needs it more is the man.
These rabbis made that. You said like 2,000 years ago.
The reality is a very interesting question because once HaKadosh Baruch Hu handed the Torah to Moshe and Moshe to Yoshua and Yoshua to the elders and the elders to the people and so on, right? The question is, when did these qualifiers kick in? It's not so clear. And the Talmud talks a lot about that. Well, was this particular qualifier, was this something that was worked out between Moshe and the elders back then? Or did it come later? Everyone's a little different. But for now, let's say that this is one of the original ones. Good. So, but you're going to see them go through 3,000 years of 2,000 years of history. Okay. So now we move into the second category of mitzvot, which are rabbinic. A rabbinic mitzvah, right, is lighting the candles for Hanukkah. Now, if the rabbis are going to write the mitzvah to begin with, all right, hang on one second. If the rabbis are going to write the mitzvah to begin with, then the rabbi is going to write the mitzvah in a way that works for women. So you
wait 1 second.
Hi, Mazel. So you wouldn't say that a woman would be exempt from a rabbinic mitzvah, because when the rabbis wrote the mitzvah, they wouldn't have written woman in if they didn't feel that it was reasonable for them to be in, right? Now we have the rabbinic rules. Okay. So now what is Purim? Purim is 100% rabbinic, right? There was no such thing as Purim when the Torah was given. Purim is 100% rabbinic. Now, are there references to Haman and Amalek in the Torah itself? 100%. We'll talk about that. But Purim is 100% rabbinic. So now, if the rabbis are defining something, they can define from the outset who's in and who's out. Good? So what's the story with women in Purim? In or out? In, right? When did we say in? We said it last week, right? Because we said that the women have an obligation to read the Megillah, not simply to listen to it. Let's review that very quickly. There's a discussion between the rabbis as follows. The rabbis say, look, it's true, this is all rabbinic. Megillah, Mishloach, Manot, the Seudah, this, that, all rabbinic. Purim is 100% rabbinic. But we do have this overhanging principle that women can be exempted from stuff. Do we want to drag that into here? We shouldn't. Why? Because that was really written for the biblical stuff. It wasn't written for the rabbinic. Okay, good. Then some rabbis will say, but women are non-combatants. Women don't typically take up arms. So our obligation to fight Amalek, i.e. Haman, Achashverosh, right? With the manifestations of Amalek, our obligation is a man's obligation, not a woman's obligation. So maybe, even though Purim is 100% rabbinic, and we're not going to qualify the rabbis' rules because they qualified them already, well, maybe because women are non-combatants, they have a lesser obligation to Purim anyway. And therefore, the minority of rabbis say that the women don't have the same obligation to read the Megillah. They do not. And if they don't have the same obligation that a man does, then they can't read for him because he has a higher obligation than them. If the man has an obligation to read, for example, and the lady has the obligation only to hear, that's considered a lesser obligation. Therefore, if a man and woman were home alone and they couldn't get to the shul, based on that minority opinion, the woman couldn't read for the man, because she doesn't have a parallel obligation.
What if they can't read? Like, what if you're sick or whatever?
Excellent, excellent, excellent.
Oh,
What if you can't read? Okay, we can't read.
it's
What do you want to do? Find somebody else. What did we say last week? Wait, don't go there yet. What did we say last week? No, but one second. What we said last week was, we went through some of the back and forth. What we said last week was, the reality is women have the same exact obligation to a Megillah that a man does. The same exact obligation to the man. And therefore, if a man and woman are home and the man can't read it and the lady can, the lady reads it for him, says the berachot that he would make, and is fulfilling the mitzvah for both of them by her reading it and him listening to it. So men and women are on the same exact level.
So they can read. Because it's not.
Okay, one second. So now let's establish, again, we're building, right? So now we built the fact that this is rabbinic. If it's rabbinic, it's designed later. And I shouldn't have to tinker with the design. Therefore, if it's designed by the rabbis for everybody, then it's for everybody. Oh, but what about the fact that women don't have time-bound mitzvot? Leave that over there. What about the fact that women aren't combatants? Leave that over there. But when you're talking in the pure rabbinic infrastructure of halakha development, women are just as obligated as men. Good. So if a man and woman are home, or if there's a small group, right? One of my students, his daughter, she's a teenager. She reads the Megillah for her family. She gets a group of 10, 15 people, family members. So he came to me a couple of years ago. He asked me, what do you think? I said, well, you've been doing it for years. Your rabbi is so-and-so. What does he say? He said, well, that rabbi said that being that it's for my family, we don't have a tzniut issue. And I completely agreed with that. I completely agree with that. I don't think there's an issue. So why don't we have women read in the Beit Knesset? Because it's a tzniut issue, because of modesty, because we hold men will be men, and men will be men, and you can't get a man out of being a man. And therefore, for a woman to stand up in front of a room full of men is not the most modest thing. So because of the failure of the men, we don't do it. But on a structural level, on a core level, the lady has the same exact obligation. Good?
So I wasn't here. A woman has to read every word, not just listen?
No, everybody can fulfill their obligation to read by listening.
Oh, they can.
Yeah, everybody can. Everybody can. Right, great. Good? Okay. Now move over to the other three mitzvot of the holiday, right? You have the mitzvah we'll talk about today, Mishloach Manot, right? What is Mishloach Manot? Mishloach Manot is sending X to somebody else. Now, what is the language of Mishloach Manot? What does it say? What's the mitzvah? What's the exact terminology?
Give money?
No, what's the exact terminology? Mishloach Manot Ish Lerehu. What does that sound like? Man. What do you mean? You told me a minute ago that it's rabbinic and the rabbis designed it. Well, maybe the rabbis designed it with a man in mind because they didn't have to put in the word man, but they put in the word man. So what do you want to do with that? That's a problem. The rabbis struggle with that. The later rabbis, they say, well, the early rabbis, the people who affirmed the Megillah in the 10 years or so after Esther and Mordechai wrote it, it took about 7 to 10 years for Purim to be entrenched as a holiday and for the rabbis to fully accept the greatness of the miracle and the validity of the Megillah. By the time they accepted it and they adapted the language of Mordechai and Esther, who said that one of the four mitzvot should be sending a gift from a man to his friend. So does that mean that a lady is exempt? Okay.
But they use masculine in general to cover everybody.
All right, very good, very nice. So oftentimes we're going to use the masculine, but I want you to leave that as an open question. Very good. Let's leave it as an open question, and let's dig a little bit. So now let's take a step back. What is the purpose? What's the purpose of Mishloach Manot? Again, I'm talking about the one, we have an obligation to send one. The other 20 or whatever that we send are a nice thing to do. And we're going to talk about exactly what they mean, because there is a meaning to sending them. They do have value. But what is the point of sending it? Why do we send it? Right. So what are we trying to do? What's the connection? What are we doing? Huh? Unity, yeah. Unity and to deepen the connection, right? So what is it? It's Mishloach Manot ish le'ehu. Who is it? Resh ayin he. It's a beautiful word.
That's bad, right?
No, it's actually very nice. Not ra'a, re'eh. Right, same letters, actually, you're right.
Because I'm thinking it creates peace. If it's someone that you're not on the best terms with, are you supposed to give them? a
Yes,
Mishloach Manot?
excellent. So re'ah is a very high level relationship, right? We want to be a re'ah of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, not just a chaver. We don't want to be a friend. We want to be someone higher than that. We want to be re'eh, right? Resh ayin he.
Close and intimate.
It's very close and intimate, exactly. So what's the point of the Mishloach Manot? Like you said, it's to take a relationship and deepen it, right? That means that I have to give a lot of thought to whom I send this Mishloach Manot. Again, forget about all the additional ones. We'll talk about them. But right now, there's a core obligation. And what is the core obligation coming in contrast to? The reason I read the Megillah is to tell everybody about the miracle and to remind myself about the miracle. Good. What am I doing by the Mishloach Manot, right? I'm deepening relationships. I'm building relationships. Why? What was missing at the time Mordechai is dead?
You're healing society.
We're healing society, right? When Haman goes to Achashverosh and he tells him, you know what, you're taking your plan of ruining their values. It's moving, but I got a better plan. Why spend all the time and money changing their values? I'll put the money together. I'll put a bounty on every Jew's head and let's just kill them. You don't have to spend the rest of your life convincing them to move more to the physical than the spiritual. Let's just get rid of them. And Haman does his calculation. He says, you're right. If I could get rid of the Jew, why do I have to inculcate him? Why do I have to indoctrinate him? Why do I have to re-educate him? I don't. I'll just kill him. You know, Hitler made the same assessment. His original plan was to take the Jew out of the Jew. What he called it was to remove the Talmudist Jew. He wanted to remove the Talmud from the Jew. And that was his first plan. And that's what he started on. Indoctrination, education, woke. It's all the same. It's all the same. And then when that failed, then the final solution kicked in.
But Hitler wasn't really gonna accept a Jew if he converted.
Not so sure about that. You have to look into the early Hitler.
Bloodline.
Early Hitler was a little different, right? When did the final solution kick in? Late 41, 42?
Started to annihilate the Jews.
It wasn't. It was started to wipe them out as an identity. It was it's very similar type of approach. Well, you know better than me, right? You took people and you educated people on this for years. The way I understand it is that it was a later stage approach.
It wasn't the reason he started the war. It
Right.
developed into it later on.
Right.
He
Okay,
said, I'm
great.
getting rid of the bloodline, I'm gonna have my own race of people.
Right.
But
Okay.
wasn't this written in Mein Kampf? In this book that was when he was in jail, which was before he even started the war.
I
He had that-
really didn't read the
Yeah,
book.
Uh-huh.
I didn't read,
My
but my
father
son
read it
read
and
and he
I-
showed it to me.
So
Yeah.
now what do we have? We have an interesting thing, right? So Haman tells Ahashverosh, Yesh am mefuzar umefurad. Mefuzar umefurad, right? Mefurad makes sense because it was 127 city-states to be spread out made total sense. That was spread out among his empire. Nothing wrong with that. But to be disenfranchised was the problem. To be spread wasn't the problem. To be disenfranchised one from the other was the problem. So what am I doing with my Mishloach Manot on the high level? I'm building and deepening a relationship. And what I'm trying to do is, I'm trying to understand a few things, and this is critically important to the fulfillment of the mitzvah, and it's based on it. I have to understand, first and foremost, who I am. I have to understand who the other person is, and I have to understand our relationship, and then I send them something, or her.
Wait, say that part again.
Okay, and I'm gonna give you some background now. The Mishloach Manot is meant to build relationships. It's meant to reclaim separation, to eliminate separation, and therefore the halacha is, if I choose one person to refill my mitzvah, one, I have to think about my station in the world. I have to think about his. I have to think about our relationship with each other, and then I send it. And I'm going to give you an example. We have a case that the Talmud Yerushalmi brings down, very, very famous case in the context of Purim, where you have Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda was the wealthiest man of the generation, also the great Torah scholar of the generation. Rav Oshaya was not, right? He was not. So Rabbi Yehuda sends Rav Oshaya the following. He sends him the leg of an animal and the flask of wine. Right? Leg of an animal, flask of wine. What does Rabbi Oshaya send him back with the messenger? He says, thank you for the matanot le'evyonim. Thank you for the donation to us poor people. Rough. It was rough, right? Rough. Very, very famous story, right? Thank you for the matanot le'evyonim. Okay, not so good. What happens? The messenger goes back to the Yehuda. And now what does the Yehuda do? He sends him back a full calf and a major flask of wine. Right? And then Rabbi Oshaya sends back to him, okay, now you fulfilled Mishloach Manot. Now, yeah. Now, let's start. There are 4 or 5 important things we learned from this story for this mitzvah. The first one is that a person has to understand his station. So what does that mean? It means if my focus is on one, if a person can afford to give X, then he can't give less. Can't give less. I'll give you an example. I'm going to give you an example. Last year, I gave the one, whatever it was. And then I was going to visit 2 of the rabbis that I study with in the thing. So I ran to SY Cuisine on Kings Highway, and I picked up 2 plates of maza, and then I went to the house. I walked in. I think I did something, right? I see 25 plates of maza. Because every dib like me, who didn't put the right time in, went and bought a plate of maza and brought it to the house. So in fact, I would have been better off now, in retrospect, after I understand it a little bit, I would have been better off bringing nothing. Because bringing something thoughtless, now, that wasn't my prime one. We're going to talk about the 25 others. But point number 1 from the story of the Yehuda of Oshaya is, you have to understand who you are. If I can design something beautiful, I have to send something beautiful. If I can afford something nice, I have to send something nice. I can't just send something.
It's your station, not the other person's.
Excellent. Say it again.
No, I mean, just
It's my status.
nothing to do with the other person.
Excellent. So pause. Very good. Consideration number 1 is my status. My status. Right? That's, I would say, 70% of the consideration. Now, consideration number 2 is his status. In this case, the Yehuda, who's the wealthiest man of the generation, is sending to a giant of Torah, but an impoverished rabbi. He has to have hypersensitivity. He wants to show him his love and his camaraderie, but he has to have hypersensitivity. So if the rabbi who's poor, gets what he deems as a paltry Mishloach Manot from the richest guy in the generation, he's going to feel like he's given charity and not Mishloach Manot. And I didn't achieve my goal. I made it worse.
Thought maybe like, I know from like just hours away, like if she sends me this magnificent one, I send her back a magnificent one, but like maybe he was thinking like, he doesn't have the money to, yeah, exactly.
Excellent. He doesn't have, the sending back thing is off the table. Very good. I'm glad you brought that up. Sending back thing is one of the kids in the class, the boys in the morning class told me that what do? We rehash them? Regift. He said last year it regifted 6 times, came back to him. He said, wait a second, I gave that to him, I came back to him. He saw the same, so we're not talking about that one, right?
No.
We're talking about the key one. Now, so your point is,
Feels like he's not obligated, but also maybe embarrassed him, like I could send you.
but okay, but if you can, you must. If you can, you must.
Person that won't send, she only will send a donation in your name.
She's not fulfilling the mitzvah.
It's not fulfilling.
She's not fulfilling the mitzvah. Now, that might not be the main one. She might be, you have to fulfill one of these in practical terms. So the donation's very nice, but that's for the extra ones.
But isn't it also supposed to be taking part of the meal?
Oh, yes. We're gonna get to that in a few minutes. We're gonna get to that in a few minutes. Excellent. We're gonna get to that in a few minutes. Let's start with that. Let's start with the following. The first thing is, I have to understand who I am. And based on who I am, that defines what I'm sending. Forget about the recipient for a minute, okay? That, I think, is the massive challenge here. I think that's a massive challenge.
Obnoxious.
Huh?
in a way. It's obnoxious, like all of a sudden who's wealthy is gonna send a flock of sheep, I don't know. It's like saying, look how wealthy I am, look what I'm sending you.
Oh, how generous am I?
It's like he's doing
What?
Like he's doing.
That's the enormous, excellent. We're gonna talk about that. Excellent.
Not seeing what they think of themselves and what they.
No. No, but the opposite, but one thing, they have to live up to their obligation. That's the reality. The same thing that tells you that a person has to give a minimum amount of her money to charity, right? You have to give a minimum amount. Well, what do you mean? What if it's disproportionately more than everybody else? Who cares? You have your obligation. So yes, it shouldn't be looked at, I hear you, it shouldn't be looked at as obnoxious. It should be looked at as, because I have X, I have an obligation to that. And again, it's very, very difficult. I don't know. I don't know. I have the hardest time getting this thing right. I don't know how many times. I don't know how many times I feel I actually got it right.
One has to be.
Only one.
But
Pick that.
Where's the
one
struggle?
person
Why is
you
it so
need
hard?
to
I don't.
establish
Right.
that relationship.
I don't know. What does it really mean? You know, what does it really mean?
Nice. Maybe it's for me, maybe it's not mine.
Okay. I don't know.
It's pretty, like, I don't know.
Yeah. It's
And I don't use this on this many years, I'm like
right.
very happy that people have to spend money to their work.
And what about if you have this one special Mishloach Manot?
Right.
How can I send something less? Well, not alive, but to my parents.
To your parents?
Yeah.
That's a great question. Let's take Carla's question. Can you send it to your parent? Are you allowed to send it to a parent? 100%.
That wasn't my question.
Okay. Okay.
If I have, let's say that I'm deepening this relationship, I choose that special Mishloach Manot for that special one. I need to send at least the same to my parents.
So then do it. That's great. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. So,
Inviting guests the same as Mishloach Manot?
no, very nice question. No, it effectively fulfills the same thing, right? Because it's feeding them, right? But it doesn't replace the mitzvah. So now, all right, we'll get there in a minute. So my first thing is, First thing is, I gotta know who I am, and I have to take that consideration, at least for one. Good. Now, other rabbis weigh in on this story of Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yoshaya, and they say, well, maybe Rabbi Yoshaya rejected what he got because he doesn't hold that a maneh or mana works for a liquid. Maybe it only has to be solids. Mishloach manot, a manat in modern Hebrew, right, is never used in the context of a liquid. You might say lug, you might say something else, but you wouldn't say the word maneh or mana in the context of a liquid. So some of the other rabbis weigh in and say, well, maybe the reason that Rabbi Yoshaya pushed back is because he sent him wine with the meat. And maybe the problem was the wine.
Doesn't want him to do that, like it's a holy thing. so-
Excellent. So we come back with, the rabbis deliberate this, go back and forth. And the rabbis come back with the fact, and they say, even though it uses the word mana or manot, a liquid is okay. We would never really reference a liquid with the word maneh or manot. And we could spend 2 hours on this question, right? But a liquid we're going to deem okay. And therefore, we go back to our first interpretation, which is that Rabbi Yoshaya rejected it because he considered it not befitting of the sender. But now we learn another halacha. First halacha is it has to be befitting of the sender. The second halacha is that even though the language doesn't lend itself to a liquid is okay. Now, can I send a bottle of soda? Go back to question number one. Is soda befitting? If soda is befitting, then you can send it. If it's not befitting, then I can't send it. So, what's that?
Years ago, when I was exhausted, it had to be. So wine was okay because it went through a process.
Right.
That soda does it.
Soda's not okay, right.
Does it.
Mana means a portion.
Yes.
That-
Has to be prepared. Has to be prepared, right? Yeah,
I said mana, the word mana means portion. It doesn't mean liquid or solid.
it doesn't mean what?
It's not a liquid or a solid. It's a
Okay, very nice. So that's your chidush, which is beautiful. You're gonna hold that it's not a liquid or a solid.
Soda?
Not a liquid or solid. No, that's what she's holding. I'm not a liquid or a solid. Okay. In the end, the rabbis agree with that. Yeah.
Direct translation of-
The what?
Of manat, manot. What's the direct translation?
The direct portion.
it's a
But
portion.
it's not used in the context of liquids.
No,
But maybe we can use it in the context.
Manot, so we're sending a portion.
Yeah, we're sending portions. Manot, plural, portions.
Soda, not something that's prepared.
No, it is prepared. It is prepared. No, Rachel was saying it should be cooked.
I remember you telling me that.
Yeah.
Like, cause I remember you saying also fruit is not good. Like we have no hands in it. It's not something that.
If fruit goes up on the table,
I don't have any part in the Hamantash that I bought in the store, I don't have any part.
But someone else did. I don't know, I
Somebody
just
else
remember
made
you
the
telling
soda.
me this, maybe not, I don't know.
it has to be prepared. It has to be maybe cooked, prepared. It has to be prepared, but soda's prepared too. But it has to be important. It has to be something important. So,
I think that's relative.
huh?
Yeah, that's relative.
It is relative. That's the whole challenge.
No, but for kids, soda's okay, but for you. it's not.
Right, right, very good. Kids don't have the mitzvah anyway. So to educate the kids, yes, good. So now,
Is mana related to mana? It's like
no, it sounds like it, right.
But it works.
That's actually, it could be mine, it could be,
It is portion.
it could be, it could
They
be.
go out their portion?
They did. Okay. The class said yes, I defer to them. That's great.
Meal is not also mana.
Huh?
A meal is not also a mana, or no?
It's a meal is typically a seudah.
No, not in, like in the Hebrew, in the modern Hebrew.
A mana would be a portion more than a meal, but it generally would be a portion.
Yeah.
So it has to go up on the table, right? So we held that even though there's a pushback about it being a liquid, it can be a liquid, it should be an important liquid, okay? And it's supposed to go on the table. It's supposed to go on the table. It's supposed to enhance the Su'udah. So the question then becomes, what about sending a chicken, a live chicken? Why not?
I don't think it's good.
Why not?
Well, I don't think it's prepared or
Too
cooked.
much.
Good.
Too much.
So can I send a live chicken? Good. Can't send a live chicken. Why? Too much preparation. Too much preparation. Can I send a raw chicken? If there's time. If there's time. This year, right? Impossible. Can't, right? The daughter gonna be in the morning, right? So, but if there's time without compromising the person's day, then you could send something that has to be finished or cooked. But generally speaking, it's meant to be table ready. It's meant to be table ready. Okay. Okay.
Boy, it really is very complicated.
Huh?
It's complicated.
It's a hard mitzvah to fulfill right. I'm telling you it is. It's 100% a hard mitzvah to fulfill right. And I-
Cards, what you only have to do it for one person, right?
Yeah.
The real one, and then you could do everything else the way you.
Right.
So it has to really be food, like last year I did, I dehydrated fruits myself and I made cookies and that was kind of like, and then I gave a drink, but whatever, wine or whatever, but that's not.
I don't know if that's gonna go on the table. Is that gonna go on the table? No, no, is it or isn't it? If it's gonna go on the table, then it's okay.
But it's just as beautiful as the meal.
What's that? The desserts are as beautiful as the meal, then it's not a problem. Then it's not a problem. If it's gonna go on the table, somebody's gonna want it on his table and it's gonna enhance the Seudah, it's important. Now, what about sending a book? A Torah book? Why not?
It's not, you can send it, but it's not the fulfilling the mitzvah.
Why not?
Because you're not preparing something for the meal.
Excellent. So, but don't we have the idea that learning Torah brings us more happiness than anything else? And if the purpose of the Seudah is to be happy, why shouldn't I send somebody a book? Or why shouldn't I send somebody a written up Dvar Torah, knowing that when he studies my Torah, I'm going to make him happy?
It's a big stretch. It's a big stretch. Go on Instagram. I promise you, I saw jewelry with a bag of chips. Spelled as Mishloach Manot. One of the jewelry girls are selling jewelry with chips as Mishloach Manot. Like things became not about the food, even though it's Torah. Why is it any different?
Excellent. So our rabbis go back and forth on this. Our rabbis go back and forth on this, and they say, and there are rabbis who say that, you know what? I can send a portion of Torah because they're going 2 steps out. They're saying the purpose of the meal is to be happy. I'm going to make them happy with my Torah. So effectively, we're achieving the same thing. There are rabbis who hold that way. But in the end of the day, we do not accept that. So you can't send a book. You can't send a Dvar Torah, something like that. Now, what about, we know that generally speaking, women appreciate gifts. They appreciate clothing or a piece of jewelry or something like that, right? If a woman is sending to a woman, right? She wants to make her happy. She knows the woman appreciates whatever she appreciates, a nice dress or whatever it might be. Can she do that?
No.
Why not?
She's not putting the dress in
So,
things.
I really like the man interpretation because of this. Because I feel like the manah is not just a portion. There's a sub meaning to it that has to do with sustenance, I feel like.
Great.
It sustained us in the desert man. And
There you
this
go,
has
John.
to be
Tony's gonna go
sustenance.
down.
And okay, maybe Torah is sustenance, so maybe that would maybe be okay. But that jewelry is not sustenance, that's,
Okay.
you know.
For some people it
That's
is.
something,
Huh?
joy make you happy, but it doesn't have the sustenance aspect.
So-
Okay, we don't think that, but maybe just people
Okay,
that like
so-
jewelry and.
the rabbi is gonna hold like Jane's saying that even though it's always, the rabbis guide people on a Shabbat or Yom Tov to get the mother, to get the spouse, a dress, a sweater, a piece of jewelry, right? That's what the rabbis suggest because it brings happiness to the person, to your point. In this case, the mana, it's not a mana. It's not a portion. It's not a food-related portion. So we're gonna take it, we're gonna stretch it a little bit by saying that that drinks are, but we're not gonna stretch it to say that it's even a Dvar Torah or clothing like that are, even though people's lives are made happier by it.
We used to make the kids happy by giving them also Dmei Purim. They used to come around for Dmei Purim.
Right, for the kids.
This country, they don't do it.
We don't do it in this country, huh?
No,
No.
but I
Money.
remember we used to go around and get, give them the Mishloach Manot, and they would give.
Pretty nice for the kids.
Mhm.
Okay, what about now? What about two types of meat? Two types of meat. Or two types of meat, like from the same animal, you get this type steak A and steak B.
Too similar.
Huh?
It has to be two different things. Could be
So
the
it's
same,
very
but
interesting because the rabbis now struggle, and they end up where Moselle is saying, but they struggle. Goes like this, because Rambam Maimonides writes Shnei Manot Basar, two portions of meat, and Shnei Mine Ochalim, and two types of food. So they say once again, Rambam Maimonides was very, very clear and very, very tight with his language. By saying two manot, two portions of meat, maybe he meant to say that you could have two portions of the same meat. What would be the problem? You could have two portions of the same meat. What would be the problem with that?
Enough for 2 meals,
Yeah.
2 portions?
No, it doesn't have to be two portions.
Do the same thing.
No, do the same thing.
Oh,
Based
the
on
same-
Maimonides, based on Rambam, based on the topical reading of Rambam, you would say that I have two manot, two portions of meat. Two portions of meat. So if it's two portions of meat, why can't it be two portions of the same type of meat? The same exact type of meat?
Two steak or a steak at a.
or maybe people eat different amounts. So two portions for you, maybe one portion for me.
It's true, but the question becomes the two portions. By him writing two portions, did he mean to say that it could be two of the same thing? So the rabbis struggle with this because again, Maimonides is very, very direct in his language, right? What's that? What?
Saying if we're doing two, no, but you could give two different types of beef, like you could give a lahmacun and a pulled beef wonton.
So let's see, great, let's see.
So you can't give two.
The
different beef.
answer is yes, but let's just get there in a minute.
You can
Because
give
they're
two
the- because
portions.
they're the
Based
same.
on what Rambam is saying, you could give two lahmacun, two portions of lahmacun, right? Good. But the rabbis go back and say that he meant two manot of basar, meaning two different types of basar, not two of the same type. So therefore we hold that you have to give two manot, two portions. Can the portions both be meat, for example? Yes, but they should be from a different part of the animal, or from the same part of the animal, they should be prepared differently. One roasted and one baked, something like that. So what do we end up with? Is it two berachot? No. But is it two types, two different types? The answer is yes. It's two different types. So can it be two types of meat? Yes. Right? That's a classic case. Can it be two types of chicken? Can it be chicken prepared, fried and baked? The answer is yes.
Can you be 2 bottles of
Good.
wine?
We have a why?
Huh?
Is there a reason why? We'll just make it interesting and make it more.
And only because the language that Mordechai and Esther wrote was in plural. And now we're trying to figure out, when they wrote two manot, did they mean two different things or not? And now you go back to point A, which is, I'm trying to build a relationship here. And how do I find this place where I'm putting in enough care and focus and attention to the thing? So if it's just grabbing 2 pieces of steak and sending them, might not be the case. Now going back, yeah,
Can you give 2 bottles of wine?
Huh?
2 different wine?
what's that?
Can you give, instead of a cooked meal, 2 different bottles of wine?
Technically, you could. A red and a white, for example, you could. Technically, yes, you could. Now, the question becomes, what about a meat sambusak, for example? It has meat and it has dough. Huh?
One item. I'm sorry, you're stretching with a lot of these things.
I'm just having a good time.
So many.
It's one
years.
that I feel.
What about kibbeh mushroom? Kibbeh mushroom.
One dish.
It's one dish.
Why is it one dish? Huh?
It's not one that.
There you go. Listen to that. Listen to Carla, yeah.
But it's one beracha.
It's not,
We don't do 2 beracha on the sambusa.
sambusak would say one beracha.
I know, it's so.
What
so
about kibbeh and mushrooms? Say one beracha? Yeah, generally we do, but, what?
I said, who knows? We covered in hamotzi. Saying we eat
We're
the
generally
hamotzi
covered in
one way.
hamotzi, right? But if I send the kibbeh in one plate and the mushrooms in the other plate, it would be considered 2 manot, right? But if I cook it together and it's typically eaten together, it's only considered 1, right? Okay, great. Okay.
Let's see.
Could you send, one guy sends, turkey in a pita, and the other guy sends pita and turkey. How do you-
One's two,
Right.
one's 2 and one's
What do you
1.
want to say?
All hungry.
One guy sends turkey and a pita, and the other guy says pita and turkey. What? Wait. No, yeah. Which one is
Yeah.
good?
Turkey and
The
pita.
turkey and
And the
pizza,
first one is not good.
Turkey pita is not. good.
correct.
Very good.
Why?
Why not?
It's the same. It's one
It's
item.
one bite, taking one bite with the turkey in the pizza.
The sandwich, you gotta add wine to it. If you're doing this separate-
So a sandwich becomes 1 item, even though it's 2 items,
Okay.
it becomes 1 item, right? It becomes 1 item.
And the other one was what?
Huh?
Separate, target separate with the bread.
Sliced turkey with bread on the side.
Holly on the side.
Oh, yeah. Right.
But you still only make 1 beracha for that one, don't you just say hamotzi?
I don't know where the berachat thing came in. Maybe we were all confused over the years, but
Oh.
it's not,
You don't have to do 2 beracha.
right. You don't need to.
That's what we
No,
was
especially when you say
I'm
hamotzi, you
saying
don't have
that's.
to.
2 items. 2 items, not 2 beracha. We always thought it was 2 beracha.
Yeah.
Growing up.
Anyone thought that math was difficult?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. Now let's go to the question that, tops the questions, right? Now that we figured out a good number of the details, right? Why should women be obligated altogether? Why should women be obligated altogether? It says Mishloach Manot Ish D'Re'ehu. So who says that women are
Would you
obligated?
leave the mishloach on no parts of the men? I don't know if anybody's gonna.
Well, we were
Gonna go
part of
hungry,
the
right.
mitzvah. We were part of the
Why,
miracle,
What,
the
Mazel?
nest. We were
What?
part of the nest.
Yep, right.
We were included in the nest, and it's not Zman Gdama.
Excellent. So, Avhen Hayuboto on this, what we touched on last week, but exactly right. We'll bring it back here. That the women were part of the miracle. In fact, The women were not part of the miracle. The women brought the miracle, right? Without Esther, you don't have anything doing here, and so on. So, because of that, women have the same level of obligation as men. Isn't it time bound? Yes. But what do we
No.
say with the time bound exclusion? That's not in rabbinic law. That relates back to biblical law, and this is all rabbinic. Very good. Now, what about a woman sending it to a man? What about a woman sending it to a man? What would you say about that? Huh? It's inappropriate.
If the meaning.
Inappropriate, really? Wow.
The relationship.
Not so
the
cool.
problem.
It's not so appropriate.
If he didn't learn all this, he wouldn't think that way.
Right. So now what do we hold? That
But a man can send to a woman? Or no, also?
same issue, right?
Same,
Same issue.
okay.
So very good. So women shouldn't send to men, men shouldn't send to women. Why? Because of the same issue. That you know that you know huh?
Now that we
It's
learned
what?
this.
It's intimate.
It's right. The whole point is intimacy. That's the whole point, right? That's the whole point, huh?
Dating, what if a girl's dating a? That's gotta be different.
If you're dating the person,
You want a deeper connection. I think that's very nice.
you're dating the person. Truth, I never thought of that. I don't know. I don't know. I would still say probably not, but okay.
Maybe from the family.
Yeah, maybe more for the family.
Correct.
Good. Now, let's wrap with another important point. What about the 25 or whatever number of other Mishloach Manot that we send? Is that just this? Yeah, I'm gonna give you a couple of criteria for it. Is it considered? We have a few criteria in halacha. One, when we do above and beyond, right? What's
Mhm.
basically obligated. One is hareze mishubach, which means that action is praiseworthy. And the other is that it's considered hidur mitzvah, the beautification
Yeah.
of the mitzvah. Which one is it? I'm going to give it to you again. The one we know we're obligated to do, and we talked about how to do it best, right? Now we have all the others. You could give three choices here. Choice A doesn't mean anything in terms of Jewish law and the credit, so to speak, that somebody gets from doing something good. You can make that claim. That's not what the rabbis do. The rabbis frame it in one of two ways. One frame was with the terminology of Hare ze mishubach. It is praiseworthy, which is very nice, but it is what it is. It's praiseworthy. The other rabbis come and say, it's hidur mitzvah. It's the beautification of the mitzvah. It's the beautification of the mitzvah. Now, which is more valuable to us who want to rack up mitzvot?
Unification.
The second.
The second. What is the classic case of hidur mitzvah? Beautiful. Nerot Chanukah, the Chanukiah, right?
Uh-huh.
Light one, we light several times that, right?
Wait, giving a million people, that's not really beautifying the mitzvah. Giving a nice one to someone is beautifying the mitzvah.
Very nice. So you would say, this Chacham would say that really it's not beautifying the mitzvah. Beautifying the mitzvah is doubling down, tripling down on the one to this one guy.
But it's praiseworthy to create connection.
So you're going to hold Harei Zamim Shubach. Very good. There are plenty of rabbis who hold that it's Harei Zamim Shubach. It's praiseworthy. Any other opinions?
But if you're only giving the leg of lamb and the wine, are you making those connections or are they gonna think like the rabbi, like, oh, what are you giving me? My time out, like, like, if you're not gonna be able to go all out for everybody. Then
Oh, all out
maybe-
for everybody. Very nice. That's a great point. I didn't think of that point. But you know what? Maybe you end up creating a problem. Because,
No, because if it's about you, if it's about you, not your relationship, then it has to be equal to everyone. In other words, if it's on the level of who you are,
right.
then it stands to hold that it has to be even.
It's rough.
You have to give everybody a very big.
I don't know, you might say that.
Not obligated to do that.
Oh, but
Well,
you
there's
have-
there's no mitzvah to do.
No,
And
well,
the question
yeah.
becomes, what am I doing here? What am I achieving? What am I achieving? If with a down, if everybody knows, or whomever the other people are who get it know that they're not the primal one, then we don't have it, we don't have a fall off and we don't have disappointment and we don't have a problem according to halacha. But if everybody thought, those other people thought they were the primal one, then you'd have a problem, right?
Mhm.
So what do you want to say?
I think it goes under praiseworthy to me, and I think if you go back to what you said, that it's based on our stature, then you really have to give everyone according to what you could do, not
Right,
who they are to you.
right. Yeah, I'm a little more comfortable with the praiseworthy than I am with Hidur Mitzvah. I'm a little more comfortable with that. Although there are plenty of rabbis that line up on both sides. Praiseworthy, there's nothing wrong with praiseworthy. Hareza and Mishubach is a beautiful thing. Honestly, I can make an argument either way. To say it's Hidur Mitzvah gives it a little extra punch because it says not only did you go all out of your way for this one person, but then you had the sensitivity to bring to other people and try to build relationships there. I think in either case, it's meaningful from a life building, how we want to build our lives and live our lives perspective. Either case, it has value. Because in either case, to go back to the original point, we're creating harmony, we're showing love, we're showing caring, we're showing relationship, and those things have value.
And by the way, I don't think it necessarily always has to relate to money. I think that it depends on the person and their personality and how they're showing themselves in the matana, in the Mishloach Manot. It doesn't have to necessarily, you could buy something and spend a fortune and show no effort.
That's right.
If you're doing something that maybe baking something or you're preparing something, well, you design it in a certain way, it's not necessarily a $1 zillion, but you're
100%.
showing that part of yourself. I think that's also making.
But it's not also, it's exactly right. It's exactly right. What Rab Oshaya felt when he got what he got from the Yehuda was he told the servant, go grab those two things and send it. That kind of thing. He felt it really didn't demand any thought. And honestly, it's like me going to King's Highway and walking into one of those stores and picking up a Mazda platter. And I will never forget walking into the rabbi's house and seeing literally, I don't know how many of them. Showed how thoughtless my action was. Better off not bringing it. Better off not bringing it. No, better off for not bringing, no, but it was thoughtless.
No, but because the rabbi's gonna eat from this hashgacha, maybe they won't eat from a person's household, so that's why.
That's not the point. Okay, but the point was, it was thoughtless. Or it did have minimal thought.
Fulfill your obligation.
Right.
That was it. You were trying to just fulfill your obligation.
Right, and what I think I should have done, and it's just something for us all to think about now that we understand the criteria of the mitzvah, go visit. Without the thoughtless Mishloach Manot.
Can't walk in without them.
Okay, whatever, that,
I'm with Sarah, it's not.
No, but I
Also think of the
Yeah.
times and what's acceptable
Yeah.
at the times, and
Yeah.
it's not acceptable.
Right.
Fine.
It's just
Good. So these are the criteria. We know the criteria. It's a very important mitzvah. Really no less important than Mikra Megillah.
If someone sends you a Mishloach Manot and you think it's really nice for someone else, could you recycle it then?
I don't know why not. I don't know why not. Again, you probably don't want to be recycling the main one, right? The main
No, not
one.
Yeah.
The main, huh? How do you-
But somebody sends me one and it's.
Nicer than yours. Nicer than the one you had prepared to give to somebody else.
I'm
you're saying.
saying if you're receiving it and you're recycling it, you don't know if what you're receiving was the person's mean.
Right, but I'm saying I wouldn't, my point is,
That's why I said mine.
my point is I wouldn't wait to get a great one and then say that's my main.
The commercialization of the whole.
Oh,
thing.
that's
Yeah.
That's like, it's,
It's
I-
Yeah.
I- 2 years ago, I told them, like, I'm not guilty as charged, but I just feel like it became like a business.
It's a business.
100%.
Everybody knows, and I went to the well yesterday for a class, and it's like, whatever, some woman is selling her, I mean, God bless her, I hope she does well, but I'm saying like, it's just it's silly. over there.
Yeah,
Maybe that's
listen, that, you know,
time for women to bring out their sales and make their money, and maybe it is.
That's not so terrible. If I go and I pick, I'm thinking like, if I go in the store and I took the time and I picked the most beautiful one, whatever, that also. I feel like the connection can be made in so many different ways. So it's not only. Right.
I hope people want to think as long as it's not.
all right, guys, I'm gonna.
Wait, I have a question, Rabbi.
Huh?
I have a question. The
Yes.
rabbis, it took them 10 years to decide whether it's a Mordechai and an Esther. And what made them decide? Is there a historical, do we have proof of anything like we're
Fantastic
discussing?
question. It's not for today. It's for a whole hour,
Yeah,
but it's a fantastic question. The Gemara goes through it in depth. Rita's asking the question. She's saying, what, it took years. I don't know if it was 10 or 7. We don't know the exact number. It took years for the rabbis to accept Megillat Esther as divine. And she's asking a great question. She's saying, well, what happened and what did it take and how did they get there? So maybe we'll do that. Maybe we'll do that. It's a great question, but it's a little bit of a long answer.
because it's really rabbinical. You said it's rabbinical. And here we are, making a big fuss about it. And we don't know, it doesn't follow the history of the Jewish people.
Excellent. So the question to you, I'm going to phrase your question just slightly differently, but same point. Why
Okay.
this one and why not the other times he was saved? Why was this time exceptional? And the rabbis decree that it was. And we hold that it was. Why the challenge was exceptional and the salvation was exceptional.
So in 100 years, they could celebrate the Holocaust
True.
or Gaza or
And with Beata Mashiach, we might.
we might.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Be'ezrat Hashem. Okay.
All right, thank you.
See you next
Thank
week.
you.
Thank you.
I can't believe we spent a whole hour on Mishloach Manot.
Yeah.
It's
No?
amazing, right? Like we know, yeah,
That's
it's always
correct.
something to learn. It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Are we going to change our ways? I don't know.
All right,
We'll try. We'll try.
Yeah, we'll try. Yeah. Okay.
Have a
Thank
great
Thank
day.
you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.